of the wee bench at 45 degrees. So I suppose really when you're doing the inclined, dumbbell press, even though you're hitting, the pectoralis, sort of minor, major, minor, you're still, you're still hitting the sort of the front, sort of deltoids as well, and the triceps and everything are coming into play. Again, as I say, I think, the 45-degree angle, I'll just see how that sort of works out and how I feel, which really part of my chest is sore. But again, it's maybe taking that extra wide grip or sort of, where you're holding the dumbbells out more slightly. And again, you're reducing that sort of stress on the triceps and trying to bring in more of the pectoralis. But as I say, it's earlier on, I'd mentioned about, the different subscribers, and it was a case where, I have sort of a variety of subscribers, even from young folks there from 18, upwards, people there in their early 30s, 40s, 50s, and up there in, 65 age group as well. And, sometimes I would sort of wrestle with myself and think, that, I'm looking out, towards my intended sort of audience. And, I just think in life I've had sort of that much experience, working. As I said, I was a youth leader, when I was younger. And also I actually worked, in fostering as well. So I fostered quite a lot of children and, as I say, a lot of young, teenagers as well. And it was just a wonderful, experience and able to sort of tap in to that sort of mindset. I used to have sort of like a measuring stick in a way, where I would apply it really to myself. And when maybe I was looking after the children, looking after the young people down through the years, I used to think, well, maybe their behavioural sort of patterns and things like that there. And I had to be very, very careful not to be judgmental. But the way I sort of evaluated it, as I say, was with your own measuring stick. I used to always say, was the young ones, did they get up to the same stuff as you got up to? What type of young fellow were you when you were younger? We've all sort of made mistakes and made sort of wrong sort of judgments as well. And, I was a wee bit of a rascal as well. And I used to always say, well, the young ones, they never were as bad as what you were, and that's why, I suppose in my heart, I opened my life and opened my heart open because, as I say, I'd sort of fallen, short of the mark myself and had sort of that kind of sort of lifestyle where I was able to put all that sort of energy in. And it was fantastic, as I say, I think over the period of maybe 10 years, I had maybe 50 young people that came through my home, and I enjoyed, every minute of it. And in fact, really, the fostering, I think the old language really speaks of like a fostering as like a foster age, and it's like coming alongside someone and really sort of guiding them, being like a role model to them. And again, it was a case where I used to often, as I say, just think of it as a form of like it was an apprenticeship, where someone's going through a trade, they're working as a bricklayer, a plasterer, a plumber, or a joiner, something like that, when they have an apprentice and they have to to maybe, pass on their sort of knowledge and their schooling on. So like the fostering, it was like, as I say, you were instilling, a form of skills and of life skills into their wee lives as well. So it was something that I really enjoyed. And, there was times there that, I would have spent time, maybe in the gym training along, and, I've really sort of very fond memories of training with the young people. And again, as I say, I can always, like, I had my own family, and it was a great sort of experience for them as well. And, as I say, they gained in wisdom, they gained in knowledge, and they gained in experience as well with the fostering. And again, just, thinking back, um, as I say, just even when I started at an early age with the bodybuilding, it was a case where, I'd sort of suffered from depression and would have got myself down and things like that. And sometimes you had sort of troubled sort of teenage years, and it was a case when we were younger, we would have run around in sort of different gangs and things like that there. But at the same time, there was a time in my life where I got so depressed that I thought about sort of actually sort of taking my own life as a young boy. And again, it was a case where, you know, when I started, when I went to the gym the very first time, and, I sort of found a new love, an inspiration and something that gave my life sort of meaning. And the like of the training and things like that, it helps your mental health. It helps your, not only your mental, but your physical sort of well-being as well. And it certainly helped to sort me out as a young fellow, because it gave me that sort of new found direction, that meaning in life, and if you're out there and you're thinking, well, I have nothing to do with my life and nothing sort of constructive to do, as I say, I would sort of recommend that you would take up the fitness, you would even take up the bodybuilding, but you would take it up in a natural way, the way I did. And it's something that I'm so glad that I have done. And it has stood by me down through the years. And to be honest, really, the fitness and the bodybuilding actually saved my life as a young man. And as I said earlier on, gave me that new hope, that new direction. And as I said, I met some really good friends, through my training as well. And as I say, growing up in from a teenager, through the adolescence period, it's really sort of difficult. But, you know, it's important to realize that your own value, your own importance, and your life it's ahead of you. As the old saying, like the man with the wheelbarrow, it's in front of you. And it certainly is, but never give hope up on yourself. Never give up on yourself, and just focus on keeping yourself busy, keeping yourself, being positive, and getting along to the gym and seeing that sort of self improvement, because the fitness is not only just even for that appearance sake. It's a sort of a lifelong sort of journey. As I had said before, it's not like 100 meter sprint. It's more of a marathon, and it's something that you can implement and it can be part of your life. And as I say, when you get older and you get, to my age, you can look back and you can really thank the fitness, and you can thank, the bodybuilding. And because as I say, it's given you that direction, it's given you that meaning. And, you're training there, in the gym, and you're sort of gaining those muscles, but you're also developing your mind. You're building in that sort of discipline in your life. And then when you even actually enter into employment as well, you have, if you've gone through those times where you've been pushing the weights and you have that determination and that stickability, then you can turn around and say, my goodness, I can face this job no matter what comes in life. I can face whatever I have to face. So I'll try this last wee set here. I have the bench at about 45-degree angle. So again, as I say, I'm just getting back into this again after another wee bit of a rest. So I'll see how this goes. That was a good set. And as I say, even with me being in the gym today, usually my strength's not up to par with the diet, but yet at the same time, I've addressed, my own sort of issues. That sort of little bit of depression there, have pushed that out the window. The endorphins have kicked in, and now my mind is positive because I've achieved something. I could have sat on the sofa today and watched the television and done absolutely nothing, but now I've been in the gym. So no matter what age you are, if you're in your teens through, as I say, your early 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even into your 70s, or even beyond, you don't need to come into the gym, lift heavy weights. It's not a macho thing anymore. You can turn around and just lift maybe the wee light sort of dumbbells as well. Do some sort of movement. Get up of that chair. Get out for a walk. Think positive. And remember what Big Arnie said. It's not the no pain, no gain. It's every rep that counts.